So the Republican Party has become a party of cowards for leaders. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. If you share my concerns, maybe you could like this video and subscribe to this channel, maybe even click that little bell that will notify you when I post something new. So I was thinking about the Republican Party today, especially after reading an article about Nancy Mace, a Republican member of Congress who was trying to be responsible and stood up to the lie that Donald Trump was perpetuating about the election. She's an impressive person, the first female graduate of the Citadel. And yet, here she is cowering in front of the people who want to enforce their childish behavior, trying to make up for the fact that at the beginning of her tenure in office, she was responsible and actually reported what was really going on in the country. And after reading this article, I remembered a time when I was working on the presidential campaign of Senator Bob Kerrey. In Boston, there was a shock jock, kind of a right-wing talk radio host, one of the original ones, in the mold of Rush Limbaugh. This host admired my boss, Senator Kerrey, for the fact that at one point he'd been governor and basically walked away from political office because of the fact that he wanted to go back to the private sector. Now, Bob Kerrey, of course, was a big-time advocate for universal health care, something that is anathema to most conservatives. So imagine how uncomfortable this right-wing radio host was when Bob Kerrey started talking about the need for everybody to have access to health care. After the end of the interview, I remember people calling in, and for a brief period, the host was defending Bob Kerrey. But that didn't last long. Before long, he had just thrown in, following the crowd, joining in on the parade, trying to get in front of a parade that was already going. And that's pretty much the story of the Republican Party nowadays. Its leaders really don't lead, they follow the hordes. I mean, just look at Donald Trump. Now, objectively, Trump looks like a nincompoop, but there's one thing that he's a genius at, and that's knowing kind of the base impulses of people who don't want to be restrained by any of society's expectations. I think that's probably because of the fact that that's how he is. I mean, the best way I've come to understand Trump and his supporters is by watching my 6-year-old grandson. At his age, he doesn't want to have to eat broccoli. He doesn't want to have to take a shower when he's dirty. He doesn't want to have to go outside when he needs some fresh air or go to bed when he's tired. Instead, he just wants to live his life based upon what his wishes are at that particular moment. He hasn't developed the mental capacity to understand that sometimes you need to see the big picture. Well, if you look at the way Trump behaved, that's exactly how he was. He was driven by what his wishes were at that very moment, and those wishes could change 10 minutes from now, but doesn't matter because at this moment he wants one thing, and 10 minutes from now he may want something different. In other words, behaving just like my 6-year-old. And that's really the behavior that he has encouraged among his supporters. His supporters don't want to be bound by anything. They don't want to get vaccines. They don't want to wear masks. And it goes beyond selfishness. I mean, I don't particularly like wearing a mask. I don't like needles, but yet I wore a mask. I got the vaccines. I got those because I'm a responsible adult who's part of this society. If I had indulged my base instincts, I would have said, forget about society. I'm just going to do whatever I want. And that's basically how Donald Trump and his supporters behave. Now, his supporters revere him because he indulges those base behaviors on their part. But don't you think if at any point he stood up and told them, hey, you should be responsible and get yourself vaccinated or wear a mask, that they'd turn their backs on him just as quickly as they've turned on Nancy Mace? And that's what all the conservative politicians and media are trying to do. They're just trying to debase themselves to encourage these people in their base instincts, saying that you should have no concern about participating in society's norms. Even while Fox News hosts are realizing they need to encourage their people to get vaccinations because their supporters are dying off, Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham are still arguing that people shouldn't get the vaccine. Why? Because getting the vaccine or wearing a mask might make someone uncomfortable just for a short period of time. I mean, society doesn't work if we don't put some kind of limitations on people. When I was stuck in traffic earlier today, I wanted to go into the left lane to get around the people in front of me. But if I'd done that, I would have endangered people coming the opposite direction. So society put a limitation on me and said, no, you need to stay and sit in this traffic, even though your base instincts say you'd like to just go around those slow people in front of you. That's how society operates. And essentially saying, I don't want to be bound by any of these expectations and be encouraged in that is exactly what Trump supporters want. So coming back to leadership. Leadership is about standing up sometimes and trying to lead people in a direction that might be a bit challenging, where ultimately they'll end up in a better place as a result of their efforts. That's like Bill Clinton pushing through a tax increase that was incredibly unpopular at the time, but by providing leadership through that difficult time, he led to the greatest economic expansion in the history of this country. That was Bill Clinton, by the way, not Donald Trump who did that. Leadership is about trying to get people to do the difficult things sometimes that ultimately will benefit everybody. But what the Republican politicians and media personalities are doing is saying, no, we're not going to provide any leadership. Just do whatever you want and be proud of it. And be resentful at anybody who tells you that maybe you shouldn't do something. If you're stuck in traffic and don't like it, just go into that left lane. Forget about the other people who might be coming the other direction. And that, my friends, is not leadership. Well, if you agree with me or disagree with me, I'd love to hear your comments down below. If you could like this video and subscribe to this channel, that'd be a huge help. I'll see you in the next video. And in the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.